Hey, everybody. How are you today? Welcome to Making Connections. This is your girl, Allie. I hope everybody's having a good day. We know that today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we're going to talk about it a little bit here on Making Connections. You guys know we are here every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Saturday at 12 noon. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And today, it's just you and me. We're going to talk about this holiday. Again, it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we know that he did so much for society, especially the Black and brown communities. And so I'm going to start off by showing a little video. It's a few minutes long, so make sure you stay with us because there's some good information. And then we're going to come back. I know everybody talks about the I Have a Dream speech, and we are going to get into that later, but I want to talk about some other stuff as well. So right now, I'm going to show you this video about Martin Luther King Jr. Stay tuned.
Dr. King, a leader and a hero. Do you recognize this man? People all over the world know his face. They know his name. Now you will too. This is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he was an American hero. Dr. King was born in Atlanta, Georgia on January 15, 1929. That was more than 90 years ago. Here's a picture of Martin when he was 6 years old. He loved riding his bike, playing baseball, and eating ice cream. Martin's best friend was a boy who lived nearby, but that changed one day when his friend told him they couldn't play together anymore. His friend was white, and Martin was black. His friend's father didn't want his son playing with a black child. This made Martin sad and angry. He didn't understand why he couldn't play with his friend. During that time, there were laws in parts of our country that kept white people and black people apart. Keeping people apart like this is called segregation. The law said that black people and white people had to go to different schools, parks, and restaurants. The schools and parks for black people were often old and run down. The schools and parks for white people had newer books and better playgrounds. In some states, black and white people were not allowed to use the same water fountains and bathrooms. Buses were segregated too. When Martin was all grown up, the laws hadn't changed. He and many other people knew these laws were unfair, and the laws made him very angry. But he was a peaceful man. He did not want to use violence to change the laws. So what did he do? Dr. King used his words. He wrote letters, newspaper articles, and even books. He wanted to persuade people to end segregation. He organized marches. He led big groups of people as they walked through streets. They all thought the laws were wrong. Other people saw these marches and began to ask themselves, are these laws really fair? Dr. King also gave speeches. He spoke in front of thousands of people. In 1963, Dr. King gave his most famous speech at a big march in Washington, D.C. He talked about his dreams for the future. He said he believed that someday the world would be a better place.
My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Dr. King's words made people feel hopeful. When he spoke, the crowd cheered and clapped. Some people cried and hugged each other. They also believed the time had come for things to change. His dream helped other people dare to dream too. There were still some people who didn't want the laws to change. They were angry with Dr. King for trying to change them. They tried to hurt him and his family. That was scary. But Dr. King was brave. He didn't let those people stop him. He kept working. He knew he was doing what was right. Dr. King was a great leader. He inspired many people. He made them feel brave and strong. He made them believe that together they could make a change. It can be hard for one person to change the world on his or her own. But when thousands of people work together, they can make a big difference. And they did. It took a long time, but the laws of segregation did finally change. Dr. King's leadership and hard work helped make the world a better place. Dr. King is no longer with us. Still, people remember him and continue his good work. We celebrate him every year in January on his birthday. On this day, we take time to think about his life and what he did for our country. But you can celebrate him every day. You can spread his message of love, peace, and fairness by treating others with kindness and respect.
Hey everybody, this is your girl Allie. We're back. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you're just coming in, welcome to Making Connections. Just showed you a video about Martin Luther King Jr. because we know this is Martin Luther King Jr.'s day. And so we definitely want to talk about some things. And I wanted to show that video because it kind of sums up a lot of things. And, you know, one of the things it talked about was that he was a peaceful person. And that, you know, when he was small, had a best friend who was white, and the little boy's daddy wouldn't let him play with him anymore. And he just couldn't understand what's wrong, because, you know, we're all people, right? We all bleed red, and we all just want a better life, you know, for our families. And so, what difference does it make what color we are? And so, like I said in the beginning, you know, I will get to I have a speech. I have a dream speech, but I wanted to talk about some other things. Another thing it said about Martin Luther King, Dr. King, is that he, like I said, was peaceful. They did march, but it was a peaceful march, you know, and he marched with purpose. It wasn't just a power struggle, but it was about equality for all people. Another thing it said about he was a great leader, and that's one thing I want to talk about. You got to be careful who you let lead you, because a leader is so important. I'm talking about a leader on the job. I'm talking about in management on jobs. I'm talking about in the church. I'm talking about wherever there is a place where there's a leader. Even in communities and organizations, there's always a leader. So what is that leader's purpose? That leader is supposed to bring unity, bring the group together, be able to recognize the different people and their gifts and cause them to work together. And it's supposed to be a safe place. Being a good leader, I mean, let me just kind of break it down for you. You remember when you were in elementary school and you had to get in line, and, you know, the teacher would always pick a line leader. And so whoever was leading that line, she would say, well, okay, Susan, you're going to lead the line from the classroom to the cafeteria. Now, if Susan was not a good leader, if Susan liked to play and do flips and things like that, what happens to the rest of the line? The rest of the line gets out of place. Sometimes they trip over Susan because she didn't flip all the way, and so she's on the ground, and so now the people behind her are falling down too. So it's important to be a good leader. If you're going to be a leader, be a good leader. Lead with compassion, lead with love. Make sure that you're not causing the rest of your followers to fall down or to do things that are not good. So I just kind of want to point that out. But they also said, because he wasn't violent, he used his words. He wrote speeches. He gave speeches. He went around in the community and talked to the people. He led the marches. But he always said, let's be peaceful because we have a purpose and we want to get stuff done. Okay. So that's a little bit about that video. But before we get to the I Have a Dream speech, I want to talk about another speech that he gave, which was called The Other America. And I'm pretty much going to just read this, so just bear with me. It's not very long. But he said, there are so many problems facing our nation and our world that one could just take off anywhere. Sound familiar? But I like to use as a subject from which to speak this afternoon, the other America. And I use this subject because there are literally two Americas. Now, this was in 1967, okay? But he said, one America is beautiful for situation. And in a sense, this America is overflowing with the milk of prosperity and the honey of opportunity. This America is the habitat of millions of people who have food and material necessities for their bodies, and culture and education for their minds. And people experience every day the opportunity of having life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in all of their dimensions. And in this America, millions of young people grow up in the sunlight of opportunity. But that's not where he ended. He continued to say, but tragically and unfortunately, there is another America. This other America, has a daily ugliness about it, and that constantly transforms the ebulliency of hope into the fatigue of despair. In this America, millions of work-starved men walk the streets daily in search of jobs that do not exist. In this America, millions of people find themselves living in rat-infested, vermin-filled slums. In this America, people are poor by the millions. They find themselves perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. The other America. Again, this was given in 1967. What's happening in America today? Raise your hand if you think there's still two Americas. How many of you know that even now we are still dealing with a lot of things? Now, when we get to this, I have a dream speech. We will find out that some things did happen, some things did occur that he had a dream about, but did it occur in its fullness? Are we still dealing with some of the insecurities and injustices? So, are there still two Americas? I'm asking you that question. I have my opinion, and you'll probably figure out what that is throughout this show. But every person that's listening, are there two Americas? Why are there still two Americas? What's happening? How can we bring both of those Americas together? So I'm going to show just a few images. I'm not going to get into a whole lot, but just want to show some images of America today. So this is a graph. I just pulled up a graph, and you can't really see it, but that really light blue down there, I know you can barely see it. That's 50% of America. Way down here. With our economy, with housing. Then the dark blue you see, that's the next 40% of America. The orange shows 9% of America, and the red shows 1% of America as far as income. And so the top 50%, and even when you get into the 40%, the dark blue, you're probably talking about people who make maybe 200,000 a year. And if you really think about economy and the things that you have and the things, how expensive things are, gas, food, clothing, housing, electricity, kids need internet now. That lower 50% that you can't even hardly see, that's us. That's not good. So the next slide will show you America. Still people homeless, still people living out on the streets, and some of those people are working people, but they still don't have enough money to take care of themselves. And so the next slide, I think, says we shall overcome. See, we're still saying that even today. Now, this was a photo back in the day, but we're still saying, okay, we shall overcome. Things are going to shift. We're going to make things happen. What are we, like 50 some years later? But anyway, and the next slide also shows a graph, and this was about housing. No, this is about unemployment. And so you see how unemployment is continually going up. It had a little dip, but it's continually, and I think the graph goes out to 2030. So it's just saying that unemployment still not looking too good. There's still going to be so many Americans unemployed, not being able to take care of their families, not being able even to take care of themselves. I'm a single person, and I know what it's like just having to take care of myself. And so unemployment rates, they're out of this world. And the next slide, again, a slide of homelessness, people living in tents, people having to, and like I said, some of those people who live in those tents, they go to work, but they're making minimum wage. It's not enough money to be able to afford to eat, to have clothing, and to pay the rent. Rent is crazy. We don't have affordable housing for everybody. We build these skylines, we build these apartment buildings, but who can afford to live in them? Then, like I said, you have to pay electricity, you have to pay for water, and then food. I mean, we still not. I mean, it's all going to come together. Just stick with me. Next slide. Again, it's just a slide of somebody who's struggling, somebody who's doing without. It's real. Next slide. Excuse me, my voice. This slide right here. Black Lives Matter. Yes, all lives matter, but all lives can't matter unless Black lives matter, unless Latino lives matter, unless Asian lives matter. But right now, and somebody gave me an example. They were saying how we have 50 states, right? So sometimes during certain seasons, we know hurricanes and things come through, tornadoes, earthquakes, what have you. So yes, all 50 states matter because we're all part of the United States of America. But at this time, let's just say if it's North Carolina, a hurricane comes through, a tornado comes through right behind it. I mean, we just getting tore up left and right. Yes, we still care about the other 49 states, but right now, North Carolina needs your help. North Carolina needs your wisdom. North Carolina needs your resources because North Carolina matters. So yes, we're not saying that nobody else matters, but you got to make sure you know that Black Lives Matter, okay? We still talking about Martin Luther King Day. Y'all stay with me. And so now I'm going to get into more of, and you can Thank you for those slides. So, again, what I'm saying is we still got a long way to go. Some of the things that Martin Luther King Jr. was marching for back in the day, we still struggling with today. Today, 2021. So Martin Luther King's speech, I have a dream speech that everybody loves, was given in August of 1963. That's like what, a whole 57 years later now. And everybody, concentrates on the part where he says, I have a dream where, let me just find it real quick. One day, my, hold on, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So, everybody, that's what they remember about that dream, about that speech. And again, it's still the same thing. We're still talking about the same thing. Getting away from 2 Americas, getting away from certain parts of society, having an income of $5 billion a year, whereas some people are making, $7.75 an hour to take care of their children, to feed their children, to clothe their children, to take care of their elderly. I mean, come on. We're still not there yet. So there's still those 2 Americas. Yeah. Daily ugliness. And like even in the video where it said Black people had swimming pools, Black people had libraries, Black people had schools, but it wasn't the same quality. They weren't kept up the way the white schools were. They didn't have the maintenance on a regular basis like the white schools did. And so, yeah, we don't have Black and white schools necessarily, but we still. So let me get into the I have a dream speech. I think it'll come out. So I am going to go through the speech. And so, like I said, this was done in 1963. And it says, 50 years ago, a great America, in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon of light, of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to the end of the long night of their captivity. The Emancipation Proclamation. But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 157 years later, 2020. Because freedom comes in the capacity of a lot of aspects. So 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. So that's talking about there's a society of people who live on this little island, but all around this island is a vast ocean of material prosperity, of food, of clothing, of housing. But there's a sect that we can't get there. It's out of our reach. So Dr. King continues to say, the Negro is still languished in the corners of America's society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of the Republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. You hear that? It's supposed to be for every American. Everyone to be able to take part of whatever the goodness there's in the land. That land of milk and honey, everybody. This note, however, was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check. A check which has come back marked insufficient funds. Now, we all know what that means. That means if you go to Walmart and you get your eggs, butter, cheese, whatever, blanket, whatever you get, and you write Walmart a check, you take your products home. Walmart sends the check to the bank, but the bank says there's insufficient funds. That means Walmart ain't getting paid. Walmart just got stole from. You feel me? So the black people were there to try to get justice. But he said, we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We know better. We know you got money. You just need to put it in this account that you wrote that check on. Okay? Anyway, so we refuse, Dr. King says, to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. It will give us the riches of freedom. See, freedom is being able to live where you want to, being able to date who you want to, being able to work in any company and to be able to excel in that company. Freedom means I'm able to jog in a neighborhood and not get killed. Freedom means I can go to bed and sleep at night and believe that even if somebody comes in to my house, breaks in, that it will be a burglar. It will not be a police officer that comes in and shoots me. Freedom even means that even if I have done something wrong, so we're going to get to that because that's the security of justice. So that check will mean riches of freedom and the security of justice. Justice means that even if I have done something wrong, that I have the opportunity to stand before a judge and to plead my case. If I stole something, why did I steal it? Maybe my kids were hungry. Maybe, I was feeling like I was going to perish. But it's justice. It's not your opinion. The people who sit on the bench, they judge by what the law says, not by their opinion, not by the color of your skin, not by, where you live, how much education you have, but truly on the situation, the security of justice. So we're still talking about the I Have a Dream speech. See, y'all didn't know all that. Did y'all remember all that was in there? I don't think you did. So anyway, Dr. King continues, and he says, we have also come to this hallowed hall. We have also come to his hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of Gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. That's like right now. Why are we still in 2021 talking about some of these same things? Like I said, as we go down here, you'll hear that some things did come to pass. Oh, but we have so much work to do. Dr. King says, to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. And see, even in his speeches, yes, now he is definitely saying, hey, we the Black people, we don't have that. We don't have these rights. We're marching. I'm doing these speeches for equality for all people. This is all God's children. I'm not trying to take anything from you. He wasn't trying to make the white people lower than the Black people. He said, let's all be equal. Let's all work together. Let's all love one another. Let's all share in the goodness. When there's a struggle, I'm going to struggle with you. When there's a loss, I'm going to cry with you. When there's something that needs to get done, let's do it together. See? So, Dr. King continues, it would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. In 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hoped that the Negro needed to blow off some steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. Yeah. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something I must say, and now pay attention to this. Because as we know, there was an issue at the Capitol recently where, yes, people stormed the Capitol. They broke windows, they climbed the building, they did everything that they could do. They took pictures while they were in there. They chased police officers. They just created chaos. So they say they came together for a purpose. I get it. But unlike when Martin Luther King and that group was marching, it wasn't about power, but it was about equality. See, I feel like, and this is just my opinion, that the people who stormed the Capitol are bullies and that they wanted to bully people into doing what they want them to do. I still only see the agenda being power, not equality. See, we've been having elections for years, and there's always a winner, and there's the person that doesn't win. I don't want to call them losers, but they don't win. Not that go round, but hey, they get another opportunity later, right? And we usually do this peacefully. We may not agree. Our candidate may not have won, but hey, the people have spoken. The people have voted. So back to Martin Luther King's speech, in that day when we were still fighting for justice, this is how we did it. But there is something that I must say to my people, says Dr. King, who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Y'all want me to read that again? You want to hear? Okay, maybe somebody missed it. So Dr. King says, but there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. Yeah, we got some work to do. Yeah, we deserve equal rights. We deserve to be at the table. We deserve to be able to use our voice. And it's going to happen. But what we're not going to do, we're not going to do wrongful deeds. We're not going to drink from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We're going to keep talking. We're going to keep marching. We're going to keep getting people on our side and voting and whatever we need to do. But we're not going to storm the Capitol. Okay? So Dr. King also says, and yeah, well, people are saying it, black and white. That would have been a whole different situation if it was a whole different people. Because some of the pictures that were shown, you see where when Dr. King and his group was marching, they would let dogs out on them. They would spray them with water hoses. And now, hey, we've all been kids at one time, and we played out in the water hose and this stuff. And if you crank it up and you do it full, without like the little sprayer, that's painful. Now, we've all done it to our cousin or our brother, sister, But I mean, you understand what I'm saying. They were being peaceful, but they were being beaten, thrown in jail. The military did come to the Capitol later in the day. And I just wonder, is that the other America or what's happening? Okay. Back to Dr. King. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. We must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And they have come to realize, our white brothers and sisters, that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? When all people matter. When all people have equal rights. And I'm talking about Black people, I'm talking about Latino people, I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about there are some white people who are not even treated, with respect. All people. See, okay, we're going, okay. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. Okay, so I'll give you that. We can go into a hotel, we can choose a motel, all those things. That has happened. We can do that. Says we cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating, for whites only. Okay, so in 2021, we know we don't see the signs. They're not physical signs. that are placed in the establishments, but they found other ways to make that happen. We still are not being treated with respect and dignity. There's still things that we're dealing with. So the sign is not physically there, but it's in the atmosphere. It says we cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing in which to vote for. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Still talking about justice, equality, opportunity, which means income, which means housing, which means college education. All of that stuff is equality. See, I can get a job in corporate America, but am I making the same thing that my white counterpart is making? Am I making the same pay? Even as a doctor, are the brown-skinned doctors making the same pay as the white doctors with the same degree? Now, the studies are out there. Y'all can go Google and look them up all you want to. They're out there. And they show there's still inequality. So, in this next paragraph, he's saying, that he knows that people came from the different places, but he's saying, go back, but let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, shall be treated equally, shall be equally given opportunities, shall be equally judged by the wrong or the right they have done. I kind of added that part. So Dr. King says, I have a dream that one day on the hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I, Alicia, have a dream today that these people who control the top 10% of economics, the top 10% of income, will be touched to know that, okay, this is not equal. There are people, you are on the top of the organizations, you're the owner of the organizations, and yes, you should be given your due justice, but you're paying your people minimum wage. You're allowing your people to work in conditions that are not satisfactory, that are not healthy. You're not giving them time to get lunch and to eat and to take a moment to build their strength up to keep working. You are mandating that they work 60 hours a week, but you're not paying them for 60 hours. We still in the speech. Y'all with me? So he says, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will be judged by the color. Well, they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama with this vicious racist, with this governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right down in Alabama, little black boys, little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted. You know those people that are down there in the valley? Every valley shall be exalted. Every hill and mountain shall be made low. Back on the even playing field. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. All of us together. This is our hope. This is the faith he said that he went back to the south with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. Hold on to your hope, people. We got work to do, but hold on to your hope. With this faith, hold on to your faith. We will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that one day, knowing that we will be free one day. He's talking about everybody working together. Again, like I said earlier, when you're struggling, I'm struggling. When you're struggling, I'm going to help you. Maybe I'm not struggling, but if I see you struggling and I can help you, I'm going to help you. I'm going to stand with you for whatever you need. If we need lower costs for healthcare, hey, I can afford to go to healthcare, but I see that you can't. So I'm going to stand with you because you need to be able to see a doctor too. You should be able to get that surgery that you need. You should be able to go and have your treatments for your cancer. You, my brother, even though I might be able to pay for it, you can't. So there's something wrong. That's not good because you need those treatments. Your child needs his or her asthma pump. Come on. Your child broke their arm. They need to see a doctor. But we got 2 Americans there. Yeah, okay. Dr. King continues. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, Black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Can you taste it? Can you feel it? We got some work to do. There's still 2 Americas. There's still too many people suffering. Yeah, I know there's that 40% that was in the dark blue, but like I said, in these days and times, they might be making $200,000. Yes, that's a whole lot than those making $40,000. It's a big difference. But then you're going to jump up to the 1% that's making billions, over billions, trillions of dollars every year. We got some work to do. Yes, I can go stay in a motel where I want to. I don't have to stay in the Black neighborhoods or all that kind of stuff. I can go sit at a counter and order what I want. But there's still that underlying segregation, discrimination, inequality, injustices. we still got some work to do. So that is the Making Connections with Allie show today. I just wanted to come, and like I said, we always talk about that one part of his speech. But did you hear all the other stuff that he said before that? That was a whole lot. We can come together, eat together, plan together, develop together, build together. We got some work to do. It's unfair that one person can commit a crime, another person can commit a similar crime. But based on the color of your skin, based on the money you have in your pocket to be able to buy a lawyer or to hire a lawyer, you're not going to get the same quality. You're not going to get the same representation in that courtroom because, unfortunately, you don't have the money to get the lawyer that's going to go for it on your behalf. It's a lot of work to do. Martin Luther King died in April of 1968. His dream lives on. His work lives on. Think about it. What do we need to do next? How do we get these two Americas as one America? Where again, if you need health care that you can afford, if you need affordable housing, where you can go in at the end of your day, take your shoes off, go into your kitchen, get a nice meal, sit at your table, sit at your big screen TV, watch your cable. Your children can have their own rooms instead of going to a tent, hoping that you can make it through the winter. Can't really go to the store and buy things in abundance because you don't have anywhere to put them. So daily, you're trying to figure out how you're going to eat and what you're going to eat, how your children are going to live. How are they going to make their lives different? How are they going to get to college? I can't afford to send them. They're smart. They're very intelligent. They can do the work, but I can't afford to send them. So what's going to be different about their lot than where we are right now? America is not broke. America is not without. But we have a lot of work to do. Martin Luther King, Dr. King, he did his part. Let's do ours. Again, this is Allie, Making Connections. We are here every Monday at 2 p.m., every Saturday at 12 noon. Hey, we're here for you. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, not only is this a show, but I have a network. So I have a platform that if you're somebody that you want to get your voice out, if you want to get your story out, if you want to inspire other people, if you want to teach people how to quilt blankets or knit or whatever it is you want to do. But it's something that will bless the people. It's something that will encourage people. It's something that will give people something to do. If you want to help seniors, whatever it is, reach out to us. Again, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can call us at 980-389-6826. You can send us email at allieandshay@gmail.com. Go to Facebook, send me an inbox. There's ways to connect. So I hope you enjoyed the show today. I just kind of wanted to give my heart because, like I said, I hear a lot of people talking about only a certain part of Martin Luther King's Jr. speech. But in that speech, he talked about so many things. And yes, we brown and black people are able to vote. But now, even though we have a voice and we have voted, we're still seeing oppression about the vote and how the vote went. So are we still dealing with two Americas? Again, black people should be able to go out their house house and walk in the streets of their communities. Go to a store and get a soda, wear a hoodie on our head, jog in our communities, be able to lay down and sleep and know that we're not going to get shot by the police. Knowing that even if we did something wrong, that we will have equality and justice when we do go to court. Because I'm not saying that everybody is innocent, but we have to judge everyone equally. So that's it. That's the show for today. I hope you've been blessed. You guys have a great day. Join us again on Saturday. I would tell you who the guest is, but I can't think right now. I think we're going to be talking more about financial something Saturday. I can't remember. But anyway, I always show the flyers on the page. I always tell what's coming up next. So go to the page, follow us, and like us. And as always, I'm leaving you with love, positivity, and good vibes. Have a good day, everybody. All men created equal. Toodles.